Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending our STEM Professions Career Fair panel. I'm Hazel Pina, and I'm the Alumni Coordinator for Inwood Academy.
I'm the other Alumni Coordinator. My name is Alyssa Weaver, and let's introduce our panelists today.
I'm Kelsey Riley. I am a registered nurse, and I currently work as a school nurse in a private school with students from preschool through 8th grade. I completed a bachelor's degree, which is 4 years, and was able to start working right away after that. Is that all for right now?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, who's next?
Jeff, I don't know. Yeah, you had Sophia and Diego on your thing.
That was my kids doing
the Zoom school.
My name is Jeff Dominguez. I'm a registered nurse as well. I work as the nurse care manager for solid organ transplant at New York Presbyterian, Columbia. I also did a 4-year Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, and I also did a 2.5-year Master's of Science at Columbia with a focus on advanced clinical management and leadership. That's it. Anything else?
Yes, Roy.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Roy Rodriguez. I am a financial analyst at Facebook. I completed a 4-year degree in business statistics and took some additional programming courses, but basically that's all the education that I needed to start working in that field.
Hey, my name is Elliot Mahoney. I'm a merchant mariner, which means I work at sea on boats. Right now I work for Trident Seafoods, which is based in Alaska. And what I do is I work on a boat as a second mate, catching fish about half the year. I do have a 4-year degree from Maine Maritime Academy, but to get to where I am, that's not totally necessary. That's about it.
Elvis, you can go.
Thanks. Hey, everyone. My name is Aldous Lopez. I graduated from Penn State with a mathematics major. I actually went to school with Hazel. That's as far as my education goes. I also have a couple of certificates that I've taken through my company in machine learning and deep learning to do what I do. I'm a data scientist working in cybersecurity for a fintech company called Fiserv. We're behind the scenes on a lot of things, credit card transactions, processing, stuff like that. And basically, I'm on the dark web getting data and writing and running machine learning code that runs all year round to identify threats to our clients. And yeah.
Hey guys, I am Audrey Argandona. Hey Gabriel. I am currently working as a school counselor and social worker at Inwood Academy, but I actually started my career off as a physician assistant. So I obtained a degree in biochem at the University of California, Berkeley, and then went from the West Coast to the East Coast and received my degree in physician assistant health sciences at Cornell. And I actually specialized in the emergency department and worked there. I worked at New York Presbyterian Cornell 2 years prior to pursuing a career in education, and worked in the ED there.
So before Maria asks the first question, I want to introduce Jasani and Gabriel. Gabriel is another alumni ambassador, another intern of ours, and Jasani is actually a student ambassador. She's currently a high school senior, and she also helps us create these events for the school. She's our student voice on what they want to hear, and this is actually why we have this kind of setup for the career panel so that it's more interactive. She's mentioned that there's not a lot of seeing of faces with online school. So this was an opportunity to interact and see other people's faces.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. The first question that we have for you is, do you believe that anyone is capable of pursuing a career in the STEM field?
And we're going to go in the same format.
So I'm Kelsey. I'm the school nurse, registered nurse. I think, to be a nurse, it takes a lot of hard work and time and dedication. But I do think that anyone that is able to kind of give that effort and give that time, there are a lot of ways to make that happen. There are several different degree paths that you can go to become a nurse. And again, a lot of jobs, whether you work in a public health setting or in a hospital or long-term care, a lot of facilities will actually help you get a more advanced degree as well if you're interested in that. So yes, I absolutely think that anyone can do this if they just take the time and effort.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people think nursing is heavy in science, and it is true. There is a lot of science that you need to know, and math, and during school time. However, once you leave the school, you can focus on careers within nursing that don't necessarily require you to know that much science. Some of those careers, for example, can be working for insurance companies where you work most of the time remotely, and you manage patients remotely, and you coordinate their care from home. And you really are the one that, can either give the certain services that can help them and medical equipment at home that can help them stay home and stay healthy and safe. And then if you really like science, there are certain settings that you would definitely use a lot more chemistry and physics, such as like an ICU setting. Like if you work in a cardiothoracic ICU setting, you're going to use a lot of science, a lot of chemistry every day, a lot of physics, because you're going to use machines that require you to understand how they work. But during school, you get a lot of support in regards to your sciences. I know I did, so there were certainly a lot of benefits along the way. But I do believe anybody can definitely excel in the profession of nursing.
I think it's my turn. Okay, cool. So I completely agree with Jeff and Kelsey. I think anyone can make it in the technology field. Right, so I mentioned I work for Facebook, and the specific product within Facebook that I'm working on is called Novi, and basically it's a financial product similar to Cash App or Venmo. So my prior experience was in banking. I transitioned to technology, and what I realized is that the main skill that you need to learn is how to solve problems. And I would say to anyone who's interested in the field of technology, if you either play video games or enjoy playing any type of competitive sport or board games, you have the prerequisite skills to kind of make it in this field. And the other thing that I want to add there is, a lot of people I think maybe get intimidated by the math that's required to get into technology, or whether it be like any type of programming or design or analyst kind of position. But I was horrible at math all the way through high school. And basically all it took for me to kind of brush up on those skills was focus and dedication. To Kelsey's point, I realized that it wasn't something that I couldn't do. I just needed to apply myself. And so, yeah, and the last thing I'll say is within the technology field, right? So at Facebook, not everyone is an engineer. There are a lot of different types of roles that you can apply for. their product designers, their operations people, their customer service people. So even within the technology kind of industry, if science or math or specific aspects of technology don't speak to you, there are a lot of different types of careers and positions that exist within the broader technology industry. Yeah.
So I do not think that most people could be successful in, trying to become a sailor as a career path. I'd imagine every job besides mine in this panel, you get to go home at the end of the day. When you're on a boat, you don't. So the way a lot of jobs work is you get a rotation. So you're scheduled for 1 month of consistent work on a boat and then 2 weeks off. Or sometimes it's like 6 months on and 6 months off. Sometimes it's 2 days on, 1 day off. It really depends upon what you're doing specifically within the industry. So it requires a lot of sacrifice of like social life. So having a family is like possible. I know plenty of happily married mariners, but it's definitely harder and a step you have to overcome. You need to be okay with, I guess, just like a minimalist environment. You need to be all right with isolation, and you need to learn how to get along with the few other members of your crew that you have, because the ship is very much like everything needs to be working smoothly for the boat to be operating correctly. So you need to learn how to work together with people you might not like very much. And you need to love nature and hard work. That's why I got into it, is because I really have just always loved being outdoors and didn't really, want to spend no offense to all of you, but I didn't want to spend my life in an office, So I love my career field because I get to be outside all the time. I see beautiful stuff constantly. And the other half of the time, I got nothing going on. So I can, I can't now because of COVID, but I could fly to Spain, I could go backpacking for a month. You have a lot of freedoms when you're not working, when you work as a mariner. And like Roy said, you need to know how to solve problems, because you have like a limited amount of stuff on a boat. And if something breaks, you need to fix it, regardless of if you have the right parts. So being good under pressure, being okay with isolation, and having like a true passion for it, I think are the keys to being a successful mariner. Yeah.
Actually, as Elliot was introducing what he did the last round, I was thinking to myself, I could definitely not do that. And then I thought, well, it would be a fun challenge. And that I think that's common in all of our stories is, you don't get to where you are unless you're being challenged, and you have to sometimes bring that challenge onto yourself. And so it kind of sounds like a cliche, but you can achieve anything that you just set your mind to. You have to be ready to do anything that you need to do to get to that position that you want to be at. And I've always been mathematically inclined, so it's kind of a cop out to say that I was like, severely challenged to become a data scientist.
We might have lost him.
But maybe I can talk about it the other way, etc. And so that, can you guys hear me?
You froze for like 2.5. So can you just restart when you were talking about like
No.
the data
Yeah, I just
scientist
got
part?
the internet sucks bar from Zoom. Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to do that, but I wanted to get better at the things that I hated, reading, writing, and English. And the only way that I thought to make myself get better was to take classes in philosophy, because it was something that would help my major, because philosophy is all formal logic. So it's if this, then that. You have to take into account all the possibilities so that your code doesn't fail. And so I thought philosophy would be the right merger between, writing a lot and reading a lot of papers, and getting better at my ultimate goal. And so it's kind of like an auxiliary thing. And I actually ended up minoring in it in college, and it's really, really helped me. And I was on the last one about social services, the last talk. And if anyone wanted to be a lawyer, I would definitely recommend philosophy as a minor, or even maybe a double major in college. And so challenging yourself, but also maintaining a challenge for yourself that's outside of you dedicating yourself, hey, I'm gonna get up every day and practice coding. That for me is not enough of a motivator. I need a time set or a challenge set. And actually I'm wearing this beanie because I got this at a Bloomberg hackathon. I wasn't the best at coding when I got into college, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna enter a hackathon with one of my roommates who was really good at coding. And I'm like, I'm gonna enter this hackathon and I'm gonna hold my own. And we won, we got the beanies. And so you have to kind of, it's not good enough to say, I want to do this thing. You have to, if you want to become more fit and stronger, don't just work out. Enter an Ironman competition, enter a marathon, and then you will see yourself progress, because on May 5th, I have to run 26.5 miles. So what are you going to do? Are you going to show up and do it or not? And so I've always, one thing about pursuing your career is you can do anything you want. Just make sure you don't just will it, set those milestones to achieve.
Excuse me. Yeah, for me, it was just like when I heard Elliot's like his profession, I was the same way, just like Elvis, like, oh my God, I don't think I would be able to handle that. But I do think anyone can do it. I decided to switch careers. I loved it, don't get me wrong. It was nice to interact with a lot of people, but working in the emergency department can be very, very hard. You're constantly you're working closely with nurses. A lot of the time, like it's pretty much just, working as a physician assistant, you're primarily working with the nurse in the ED, because they know their patients, they know what's going on, they have like that bedside, table manners, things like that. And then working from, just doing like regular ED stuff, I worked my way into the trauma unit. And that for me was just like, oh my God, like that can be very difficult too. Half the time you're seeing, like, you can see kids who are, badly injured. Same thing with, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, car accidents, things like that. So I think, can anyone pursue a career in STEM? Yes, but there are certain things that it's just like, you're going to have a hard time adjusting to. And the beginning for me working in trauma was an adjustment. There were a lot of times that I had to kind of like put my emotions to the side and kind of focus on the patient and, the problem at hand. It definitely helped me improve my communication skills, because you're constant, like, everything can go fast and it's all in a split moment. I'm sure the two nurses here on here know that it can definitely move, be fast paced. But I do think that, yes, anyone can pursue a career. I just think that it also depends on what exactly in the field that you're trying to pursue.
I want to jump in here because what Audrey was saying was actually kind of leading me up to the question I have for you guys. So, being that you're in a career that requires a lot of different skills and skill sets, because it's there's such a wide varieties of field that can connect with STEM. My next question is, what are some challenges or disadvantages that you have faced throughout your career, and how can these challenges hinder somebody from wanting to pursue the career, and how do you yourself work around that, to be successful at what you do?
Are we going in order, or can we just jump in here?
We're going to go in order. Yeah.
Cool.
Hi. So being a nurse, I've certainly faced a good number of challenges throughout my career. I've been a nurse for almost 5 years, and actually my first 3 years, Audrey, I worked in the emergency department and pediatric children's emergency department. You know, I think a big challenge that I know I've faced in nursing, but I know a good number of others do as well, is sometimes, like Audrey was talking about, it can be really intense working in a certain, area or field of nursing. And the emergency department, though it was fast paced and exciting, it was I met a big challenge emotionally just with the stress level and the hours. So, though I have friends that have worked there for their full 5 years out of school and will probably work there forever and love it, a challenge that I found was, that just didn't work for me and my end goals. And a great part of nursing is that you can kind of pick up and move to a different area. So, now, I did some research and thought about it for a while, and now I work as a school nurse, and it's a much better pace. So I just definitely, you know, whatever career you go into, I guess a challenge you might find is just that whatever you're doing at the moment or whatever job you're at, even though that might not work for you, there's always room to move around and find something that works a little better suited for you.
So my challenges are a little different. I'm the first one in my family to go to college. And so I didn't really have anybody to explain to me what a major was or a minor was, or, what graduate school or undergraduate school was. And I went to public school, in New York City. And so even though I was an honor student, I really didn't have a really great preparation for college. So my first time around in college, nursing is my second degree. My first time around in college, I thought I really wanted to go into medicine, because that was the only connotation I knew of healthcare. And what I decided to do is I went to public CUNY, and I started taking all these courses that I was told to take, but they were very tough, definitely different than high school. And I didn't really have the support from the school or really the direction of how to get help with these strong science courses. So I didn't really do so well. I ended up working for the FDNY in their Emergency Medical Services Division in Manhattan. So I responded to 911 emergencies in Manhattan, river to river, from my battalion covered 42nd Street to like 125th Street, river to river. And we did the traumas. We went to Cornell for the burn units. We did any major thing that you saw in the news in the 2000s. After 2003, I was part of. And I learned a lot. I worked with a lot of nurses, physician assistants, doctors, who we would train. Sometimes we would take courses like tactical medicine, things like that, or urban search and rescue, USAR courses. And it wasn't until 10 years after, and I had finished my first degree. My first degree was actually in German studies. And I had done a lot of sciences, but I really didn't shine in those courses. So when I finally decided to go back to nursing school, I had my pre-hospital career behind me, that I knew what care looked like. I knew what acute and chronic looked like. And I also knew what I needed to do in school. So I knew how the importance of all these sciences, where to get the help. And once I was in school, even though I was doing great in class, for my career, it was still very difficult for me to know, where do I do? Do I become a nurse practitioner? Do I go into anesthesia? Do I go straight to the bedside? There's so many options. So the best thing that helped me was joining a professional nursing association that I was able to learn a lot from my peers. And they were telling me, these are your options. This is what you can do. This is what they do. And I got involved in my school, and I invited a lot of nurses. I was part of the Student Government Association, and I invited nurses in trauma, Army nurses. I invited all kinds of advanced practice nurses, and they told us what they did. And that's how I was able to learn what I wanted to do, and also how to save money. Because I knew I wanted to get my master's, but I didn't want to pay a lot of money. And I found out that Columbia, where I work, there's a free 100% paid master's at Columbia University, because it's a hospital's joined with them, which is something that nobody really talks about. So you have to get involved in organizations where you know that there's people that have done what you're doing, and get a mentor. These two things will guide you and prevent a lot of mistakes. And those are the two things that I tell everybody now that go in for a first degree: get a mentor and get involved in organizations that regarding that career. So you're aware of the trends and opportunities and all that.
Yeah, I really like a lot of what Kelsey and Jeff just shared. Being born and raised in the Bronx, attending the city university system here in New York. I wasn't the first one in my family to go to college. I was one of the first though, and I can definitely relate to the experience of not having a lot of the same resources that maybe someone else who's been exposed to the college and university system may have had. I think it definitely relates to one of the challenges that I'll speak to is like, maybe the information, the internet is great because now we all have access to a lot of information, but I don't think access equates awareness. And so how do we get to know that those resources are available? So I agree with Jeff's advice, when you go to college or when you're interested in a field, try to find organizations or a group of people who have already who are already in that field or in that industry, or who have already kind of followed that path and asked questions. So that's one thing. And then there was another thing I would say, like, is a challenge that I faced is doubting that I could do a particular job or apply for a particular job or succeed in a particular role. And I think that that's something that I hear from a lot of my peers and friends who come from the same background and look like me, are Black or Latino or come from inner city kind of upbringing, is that when we are interested in a certain field or industry that people in our family maybe have not had experience in, or we don't know anyone who has exposure to it, it can be intimidating, and maybe it can cause some self-doubt, and that's something that I experienced. So I think that again, this is more linked to the prior question of do we think anyone is capable? I think it's continuing to remind ourselves that yes, it's possible to succeed, and when we face those challenges, whether it's real, like sometimes there are people who we're working with or people who may tell us, well, like, I don't think you're qualified, or sometimes it's internal, and we doubt ourselves. I think that it's important for everyone to know that all it takes is application and dedication. If you don't have the information, look for it, or find someone or a community who has access to that information. And then the second challenge I would say relates to something Elliot mentioned about finding passion in what you do. I think that that was a challenge for me, like figuring out, okay, like how do I work in a field where it allows my family to do well financially, but that I also find fulfilling or interesting. And I think coming out of college, it was in the first few years in, I had trouble with that. But I want to speak to again and something that I mentioned earlier about there are a lot of different roles that exist within any particular industry and even any particular company. A lot of people may look at a company like Nike, and I know, like, when I was in high school, I had no idea. Like, we recognize Nike as the shoe, but I don't know what happens behind the scenes. But there's so many different a career paths that someone can follow to work for a brand that they enjoy, or even start their own thing. And I think that speaks to something else that I think in the Black and Latino community is not as common, is to be entrepreneurs. And I think that, I guess just in general, realizing that there are different paths to get to things that we enjoy, and things that maybe we previously didn't think that we could achieve. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place there, but hopefully that speaks to some of the challenges.
Just to touch on what Roy said there right at the end, I really didn't know, coming straight out of high school, I really had no idea how to become a merchant mariner. I really didn't even, I just assumed the boats just magically got to where they were going. So the reason I'm doing this is to kind of try and tell you guys more about it. But living in New York, you probably knew more than I did. I was landlocked most of my childhood. But for challenges specific to the industry, as Jeff and Roy both said, there's a lot of diversity in my industry as well. Because a boat that, there's a cargo ship, oil drilling, smaller boats, taxis, ferries, thousands of different utilizations for vessels. So with, based on the operations your boat does, your challenges will be different. But just some broad challenges I think exist on every boat is weirdness with your sleep cycle. Everyone's got to be awake on a boat at all times. Someone has to be awake in case something happens. So a lot of times that'll mean you're up from like 1 to 7 a.m. and then you go to bed from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then you're up again. And that can be weird, especially at first, and that can be draining. You also need to worry about, and I touched on this earlier, but the isolation that goes along with being away from everything, internet connection, everything for like a month, 6 months at a time. And then disasters. Like if something happens on a boat, like something catches on fire or something, you have to deal with that immediately. And that I would say is the biggest challenge is learning how to think on your feet and be resourceful and keep a cool head under pressure. But I don't want to get too negative here because I already touched on the challenges. I love working on boats. Boats are awesome. Every boat is a little family, So I have like 30 families. You see beautiful stuff every day, like at least like dozens of shooting stars a night, pods of dolphins, insane stuff. The boat kind of becomes like a part of your body. Like you can feel how it's acting and it's really a satisfying experience. And just like the in tuneness you are with nature and yourself. It's not for everyone, but if something stirred in anyone listening to this while I said that, you should definitely look further into trying to become a merchant mariner. SUNY Maritime College is right there. I would definitely look into that. And if you do find yourself in the budding stages of your career, every captain is like your grandpa. Like if you're nice to them, they'll help you so much and nurture you. And it's a really great relationship that I have with a lot of people. And I've made a lot of lifelong friends that I would call family through working at sea. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that.
You make me want to like hop on one of the boats with you for a couple months or something, just to.
He froze again.
As challenges. Can you guys hear me?
You froze for like 2.5 seconds when you spoke, but now you're
I don't
good.
understand what's going on. It's because I'm like working and doing this, and I think it's too much for the Wi-Fi. I had trouble with this question because I've worked my whole life to not think of challenges as things that impede me. I don't like when people have challenges and you use them as excuses for why they can't do something. Challenges are just things you haven't done yet, and you need to do work to do them. You can't do the same thing and expect different results. So if you want something new to happen, you have to do something new. Apart from being born to immigrants and being the first person in my family to go to college, and being a Latino, there's a plethora of challenges, but I never thought of any of those things. I actually think being born to immigrant to immigrant parents is a strength, because I was there figuring out the FAFSA by myself, reading these legal documents about banks and mortgages to my parents when I was like 10 years old. And I think that all set me up to not view challenges as things that are going to stop me, but as, okay, what do I have to Google? You know, Google is my whole life. It's half my job. What do I have to Google to get through this thing? And so, yeah, that's just a piece of advice that I give on challenges, is don't think of them as excuses. Make sure that you take the right steps to overcome them. And like Jeff and Roy both mentioned, there are you don't have to do it by yourself. I did it by myself and it sucked, but you don't have to do it by yourself. Just having the mental state to, you know, someone has solved this problem before, which for 99% of them, it's the case. Who can I reach out to for help? Having that mental awareness to reach out for help is super, super important.
Yeah. Excuse me. The challenges for me, like same thing, like, you know, Elvis and Roy. I grew up in a very, you know, an immigrant, you know, family household. Both my parents were immigrants. They led their, you know, they went ahead and got their citizenship and, you know, started working, and they're both pretty successful right now. And I'm very proud of them, especially with what they had to face, which it helped encourage me and my siblings to want to do more and do better. But my story too, like growing up, as far as like my career into the medical field is a little different compared to a lot of other people. Like my career path was pretty much chosen for me by my family, and to avoid disappointing them, I just went ahead and went through with it. And I think that was part of one of the challenges that I had to face, was just trying to figure out, like, okay, how can I keep them happy but also be happy myself? Working in the medical field, I don't want to say that I loved it, but I had a really strong like for it. I was skilled, I was knowledgeable, you know, I listened, I picked up a mentor who he is still my mentor this, you know, to today. And he's actually the one that encouraged me to seek a career in, you know, social services. And I thank him every day for it. But one of the challenge, I don't think like going into it, figuring out what your challenges are definitely can definitely bring you down. But one of the things I do have to say is like finding that, like Roy said, finding the passion within what it is that I want to do. And I'm happy to say that I'm passionate about what I'm doing now. I got to graduate with you guys, with, you know, Maria and Gabriel, and now Jasani. So, I mean, it's challenges can definitely be crazy scary, but it's super rewarding once you've gone past it. I mean, I wish there was a way for me to kind of help you guys experience those things. But you're going to go on it on your own. You're going to experience it on your own journey. And once you overcome it, you're going to realize, like, oh my God, I can actually do this. And I'll leave it at that.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. We're running on time, so we'll wrap up here. But I just want to thank all of you for just shedding some light into the STEM professions. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions in the idea of like, you can only join this if you're good at math, or if you're good at science, or if you're good at technology. And it's good to hear that, like, if you just apply yourself a little bit harder, if you make a goal and you strive for that goal and just go like trailblaze through, like, you'll make it. Because I feel like that's what a lot of students are like, I want to be a doctor, but I haven't passed my math classes. So I feel like this will be encouraging for kids to hear. And I hope that they are able to be like, oh, I want to be like Roy. I want to be like Elliot. I want to be like Elvis. And I want to pursue those careers that seem really hard. And I might be a minority or a majority, like, but I still want to pursue them. I feel like this will be really good for them. And hopefully they'll be like, can I get their contact information? And I hope that you guys are open to mentoring some kids in those professions. But again, I want to say thank you for participating in our panel. I feel like I've learned more and more about the STEM professions right now than I ever did. I was one of those people that was like, I don't think I can ever be in a STEM profession because I'm not I'm not completely there all the time. But you guys can start hopping off, or if Alyssa, if you have any last words, or if anybody else has any last words, we can just end this session right now.
Well, thank you guys so much. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yay, bye.